Wasn't really supposed to start for, I don't know, another 2 weeks to 30 days. I was going to start my my real estate show, which is starting. I posted the video for those of you who have seen it for the new animated logo that I did or I had done by an incredible guy, a guy named Chris out of Germany. He's really incredible. And I apologize, my head's cut off a little bit. This is what you get when you're doing it all by yourself and don't have an engineer with you. But I could not let this moment pass. I could not stand by. So we're not officially starting the new podcast. Still working on how I want to name it. I don't know if I want to call it the Ray Jr. Show. I don't know. We've got a couple different names on the table. But today I want to talk about Ahmaud Arbery or Arbery. I hope I'm saying his name right. I have with me a gentleman who's become a friend of mine on Facebook. I'm going to come to him in just a moment. His name is Everett Gillus. I find him to be one of the more reasonable voices on the internet. I don't always agree with him, and I'm sure he doesn't always agree with me, but he's someone that I wanted to sort of ping-pong some ideas off of. Let me just give you a basic idea of where I stand, and I also don't have a makeup person, so there's going to be all kinds of shine from the lights up there. Let me just give you a basic idea of where I stand. I want to, and I want to tell Everett too. Everett, give me a thumbs up. Can you still hear me? Okay. Good. Okay. This is, in my opinion, this is not, as some are saying, Trayvon 2.0. And we'll hear from Everett in just a moment. We'll find out where he stands on that, if he agrees or disagrees. But this is not Trayvon 2.0. In the case of Trayvon. And don't get me wrong, George Zimmerman showed himself, especially after the trial, to be a complete and total moron. And I'm no fan of Zimmerman. I want to be clear when I say this. However, to excuse what Trayvon did and ignore, as the media did, his participation in that event and how he helped roll those things, and his history and what a thug he was and all those other things, it has nothing to do with him being black. It has everything to do with his history. I don't care about his color. I would say the same thing about a white person. Because of his history, it is, whether you agree or disagree with what happened in the end with Trayvon, regardless of where you stand on that, his history shows him to be a thug. Now, I'm not saying because he has a history as a thug, he deserves to be shot in cold blood or whatever your position on Trayvon Martin might be. What I'm saying is he's got that history. And from what I can tell, and we need to let all the evidence come out, Ahmaud doesn't have a similar history. Ahmaud doesn't have a similar thug problem. He seems, for the most part, on the surface, and maybe Everett knows something I don't know, and I'll bring him in here in a second. I want to find out. But he seems like a good guy. He seems like a decent guy. I saw some trouble in his history, but we all have some. I probably have more trouble in my history than Ahmaud did. And where I'm at on this, from the evidence we've seen so far, what we have is, if you haven't been following this, if you've been living under a rock in Indonesia somewhere, let me just bring you up to speed. So, a guy named Ahmaud goes for a jog every day, according to his sister. Again, remember, all these are facts right now. We don't know what's true and what's not yet. This is just what we know so far, and it's got to all be verified. A guy goes out for his daily jog and gets murdered in cold blood, running up to a truck and tries to run around it, and the guys basically assault him and kill him in cold blood. Now, the story that was given to the police by the McMichaels, the father and the son, talk about the wrong way to lead your kid. The story that was given to the McMichaels, or by the McMichaels, was that they recognized him from a series of burglaries and robberies and break-ins and all this other stuff, and attempted to detain him. He became violent, so they felt justified to shoot him. And let me be honest, if that had been the case, if what they were saying were true, I'm all for it. Some guy attacks me, and I'm just saying, hey, listen, I need a minute with you because I want to say, are you the one robbing all these places? And he starts getting all violent. Even the criminal prosecutor, the state's attorney said, justified. But this is where it starts to go crazy, right? A guy releases a video 2 months later, and like overnight, these two are arrested. Like they couldn't have figured this out 2 months ago. And instantly, I'm thinking what happened at the. I promise you, what probably happened at the state's attorney's office was, you know, that case we've been sitting on, doing nothing about for about 2 months now with the black guy that got murdered in cold blood that we're pretty sure was probably murder and not what they said? Yeah, what happened with that? Somebody released a video today. Really? What was in the video? Well, it kind of shows the white guys being completely racist and just kill him in cold blood like we had thought. Oh my gosh, hurry, arrest the guys. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down at the state's attorney's office, right? So with that being said, they rushed to arrest this guy. Now, here's what's interesting. The video that was released by an attorney. I'll say that again. An attorney who believed, now, I could see this, somebody that's not an attorney believing this, an attorney who believed it would be, here's your $3 legal word for the day, exculpatory. For those of you who don't know what exculpatory means, it means proving their innocence, showing that they didn't do anything wrong, etc., etc. So this attorney, who should know what exculpatory means, brings this video. Now, I am curious. It begs the question, was the attorney the one taking the video? Because if he was, he sat on it for 2 months, which is something with evidence, I'm sure. So with that being said, how did the attorney get the video? Do we know? Maybe Everett knows? I don't know. I couldn't find it anywhere in the press. Maybe someone knows. With that being said, the attorney releases the video thinking it's going to be exculpatory and actually help their situation, and it doesn't. It gets them put in jail immediately. We're about to have a cat walk into the shot. This is what you get when you have a studio where your cats are not too far away. This is Luke Skywhisker, everybody. Say hello, Luke. So, anyway, the long story short is they get arrested immediately, which is something that should have happened long before then. In my opinion, it's insane that that's what it took. It was maybe not obvious from the beginning, but there should have been significantly more attention paid to this long before that moment. I'm going to go now to Everett Gillus. Everett and I have, until this moment, have never spoken. We've talked a ton, Everett, on Facebook, and I've had a great time getting to know you. We don't really know each other. He's a guy I really want to get to know. What's your take, Everett? What do you think about this? What happened there?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Okay. Well, in the beginning, I didn't know anything about it, and then I started seeing a lot of posts on social media, different platforms, Twitter and Facebook, about this video. I've never watched the video myself because, me personally, I don't like seeing those types of videos. It kind of, I don't like to get emotional on.
So you haven't actually watched the video yet?
No, I haven't watched.
Have you had anybody describe it to you?
Yeah, but I've had it described.
Okay,
to me by
all right, good.
From what I get from it is that, and the video was not recorded by the attorney.
It was not the attorney. Okay. Do we know who it was?
It was a friend of the two McMichaels.
Interesting.
He got it. The attorney got it from, and the attorneys representing the two McMichaels right now. Well, one or both. I don't know either.
I'll bet both.
But like you said, he thought the video would be exculpatory evidence for his clients. I don't understand how you think that he's some kind of slip and fall.
Yeah, the exact slip and fall. Let me tell you which attorney you never hire from this day forward, right? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but anyway, as you said about the video, the two men, like you said, it happened back in February. We learned also that the father in the video is a former law enforcer.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I forgot that. Yes.
And he also worked for the DA as a private investigator.
Yes, that's right. So you're heading in. You think that this whole thing was they kind of knew and were covering it up because they were buddies.
Yes.
Yeah, I could buy that.
I've seen it's kind of corruption in that area. I read up on some more information on the area where these two lived and where he worked as a law enforcer and a private investigator for DA. And they'd had a problem in the past with slapping on the bag, corrupt items going on in the past. Also, the DA is a woman. She's recused herself. They brought in another DA about a month or two ago and looked at it. I got this information I've read that he looked at it and he said nothing was wrong. And so we let.
Do we know why the first one you mentioned she was a woman? I assume that was you only mentioned that because by way of reference, or is it significant that she's a woman?
No, it's just reference.
Okay, so with that being said, what did she tell us why she recused herself?
Because she knew the father.
Okay,
and,
well, good for her then. Good.
She was the first one that said there was nothing here. She also prevented the law enforcement who came to the scene of the altercation. The law enforcement wanted to arrest the father and son, but she squashed that. She said, "No, we're not going to arrest them. There's nothing happened here."
Oh, so she did squash the arresting of the father and the son to begin with.
So she recused herself. The second DA that looked at it recused himself because he said there was nothing there, was legit. Then a third DA came on after the video was released, and he said, well, it looks like there's something here. Now, the only reason I believe that he said it looks like there's something here is because the video got released to the public.
Now, let me ask you, the two that recused themselves, before or after the release of the video, did you say?
Before. Oh, I mean after.
Yeah, okay. So that must have been a series of 3 DAs in a matter of 24 hours then.
Yeah. Well, over the time.
So listen, they didn't recuse themselves because I take on it back what I said that she did the right thing. She recused herself because she's guilty. That's why. It's so obvious.
Yeah. And from now we're having all of this other information coming out about his past and whether he was wearing Timberlands or whether he was wearing sneakers. Did he have a hammer? Did he drop a hammer? Did he even have a hammer? Or was a hammer dropped by one of the alleged suspects? I don't know. All I can go by is what is being reported and what I've been reading. I don't normally watch alleged news organization CNN, so right. I can't go on there.
The Commie News Network.
Suppositions. But from what I can read, what I've read, and what I've heard from, I feel, legitimate sources who've seen the video and spoken about it, it seems to me that, and because of the laws in that town of Georgia, they acted out of the bounds of the law of self-defense.
Yeah, Everett, I failed to mention that this was in Georgia, which we know there's race issues in Georgia. There's just I don't buy it as much as some people purport it, but I know there's a significant issue in Georgia, and there's certainly an issue there with corruption. It's interesting. I know this is, by way of comparison, nothing in terms of what's the word I'm looking for, like importance. But the same thing. I do foreclosures, and the same thing happens to me when I go to foreclosures. This good old boy network where you try to buy a house, and if they don't know you, then they just keep bidding it up to get you way too high, and then they stop when you're way over where you should be. Again, it's just the only similarity there. Of course, the importance of this is way more than the foreclosure thing, but it's the same idea. It's just good old boy network. I'll bet you that's going on up there. By the way, I did do a little research on his background. It's reported, I'm sorry, not on his background, on the claims of the McMichaels. I did some research on that, and there's basically been no break-ins that anybody has reported, and that was one of the first things they said. There's a series of break-ins, and this guy is, and then we have a video of him breaking in, and then there's all these issues with this, not the least of which is there is no video. But then on top of that, the places he supposedly broke into are houses under construction that he's running through, right? It's not like he's opening doors. His own attorney pointed that out. So let me ask you this. I know this is going to sound like a ridiculous question, and I want to ask you in specific this question because I feel like most of, if not most, a good chunk of my black friends lean right into racism right away. And I have, hearty debates with them about this stuff. And I love all my black friends, but we agree and we disagree. You, I find to be, when I talk to you online and whatever else, I find you to be a little more in the arena of trying to figure out what the truth is as opposed to just jumping to a conclusion, which is why I wanted you to be here. I realize that there is an obvious potential race card here that could be very legit in this case. And I'm only using the word could and allegedly because we don't have all the facts yet. I'm more than happy to assign. I'm not saying that like because I doubt there could be some race issues here. There clearly could be some significant race issues. What's also possible is that you've got a couple of over testosteroned country boys that could have been a white boy running through that they would have done it too. Do you think that's possible, or do you think this is all color? What do you think?
I kind of lean more. People have prejudices.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that if this had been someone who was a white person, I don't think they would have jumped out and done what they've done.
I tend to agree
in this situation. I think that because it was a black person running through their community, I don't think that not that many young black males run or jog through the community like that, or going. I've done it before in my life. I've walked through. Me and my wife, we would go to when we were buying a house. We would go to housing areas and look at the houses that are being built under new construction. We'll go walk through and see what they will look like and see if we like that floor plan or whatever like that.
Right.
I don't know. I've done it myself, so I can understand if somebody else would probably go through a house like that. But if somebody like me was in an area of that part of Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia, I've been to Brunswick, Georgia before. I kind of had my hair stood on the back of my neck in some areas I was in down there. It happened sometime. Happened in Florida before. It happened here in Virginia before. But like I said, I think that if that had been a white person, I don't think they would have gotten as hyped up as they did. They got more on their toes, as I would like to say, when there was a black person, and it could have been a Hispanic or Chinese. It was somebody who was not white. They would have been seeing themselves, especially with the black. They would have been more on their toes, more hyped up, as you say, and to confront someone like that.
Yeah. Which
I think that, of course, if you think something is going wrong, and you have the ability, you should confront someone, but you do not. As a citizen, you make a citizen arrest. The way you do that is you try to contain them where they are. If they run off somewhere, don't give chase to them, because they could have some kind of, even if you have a firearm. This is what I learned. I've been trained. If they run off, I'm not going to chase down behind them. And if I shoot, I'll be shooting them in the back. And
you're definitely going to jail for that. Let me tell you, I'm glad you said that, because I forgot one important detail when I gave the story. Again, if you've been under a rock, the claim was that the guy was coming after them, and the truth is, when you watch the video, he just runs up behind the truck. So if this guy truly had committed a crime and he's coming up on a couple of country boys, he's probably not running up to their truck like he did. No, I mean, it makes no sense, man. But I tend to agree with you, Everett. And listen, I have a real sensitivity when race comes into this stuff. I have to admit my own biases here, because I feel like there are so many times that things are not racist, that card is played, that it ruins it for the times when it is actually racist.
Yes.
And this one is punching all of my race buttons, man. Like this is the real deal. You know what I mean? Not that there haven't been other real deals. There's been plenty of them, but I'm just saying, when we kind of look back, where were you at on the Trayvon thing? Where did you land on that one? I'm curious.
I thought that George Zimmerman was overcharged. I didn't think he was should have been charged with second-degree murder.
Right.
I think he should have been charged with manslaughter, and more than likely he would have been found. I believe he would have been found guilty of manslaughter.
I think so.
Which is, I think what the DA should have done, but I can't stand that DA anyway. I've heard too many things about her. She
was that Pam Bondi? Who was that?
No, I don't think it was Bondi. I
can't remember. Yeah, it's been years.
But Angela something, I believe. But anyway, she tried to appease the loud voices. The loud voices wanted George Zimmerman arrested and tried for murder, and that's what she went with. She listened to the constituents instead of going with her head and her law training and saying this is not a second-degree murder. item here. This is something that's more like manslaughter. He may only get 8 years, he may only get 10 years, but at least he'll go to prison for something instead of just going for putting all your marbles in the basket for second-degree murder, knowing that they can knock that out and he'll be free and doing the silly things he's doing now, auctioning off the firearm he shot the boy with, going on social media and doing all these silly things. It's just, that case was just not handled.
I agree. Yeah, you're not going to argue the case was handled absolutely incorrectly. Do tell me very quickly, do you view Trayvon, or did you do any research on him, come away thinking he was a thug the way I did, or do you view him differently? I'm curious.
I saw him as a young guy who probably got mixed up in things that were untoward, but I don't think that I just don't think he should have died the way he did die. That's what I'll just say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I can't argue that point whatsoever. So with that being said, let me I have a issue with this camera that it pops off every once in a while, and I gotta manually put it back. I gotta figure out how to make that not happen. This is this part of us testing for the show and everything as we're getting ready to launch the show. So appreciate you being here today. Do you have a few more minutes so you can stick around, or do you got to run? I was going to bring a couple of my buddies in, Larry Altman and Brian Hinson, or do you got to run?
I got a couple minutes.
All right, hang on. Let me see if I can get these guys in here. Let them in, and let me actually. I'm gonna have to go to the full shot here. See if they'll come on in, and let me go to the gallery view and hide my. Isn't it great to have me explaining what I'm doing to everybody? All right. Larry, let me see. Oh, wait, we're missing microphones here. Let me unmute and unmute. Brian, let me hear. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Got Brian. Larry, yeah, I can. Larry, you there?
I am, sir.
Good to talk to you. For those of you who are interested in joining us, and I need to actually connect the Bluetooth. For those interested in joining us, you can call it 833 Truth 33. Larry, let me start with you. And by the way, I didn't give Everett a proper introduction. And Everett, this is my fault. It's been a long time since I've done a show, and I normally have a producer that will call you and ask about your background. Do me a favor real quick, Everett, and tell me about your history in terms of I know you were military, et cetera, et cetera. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm retired military. Was in the U.S. Navy, nuclear Navy. I was on an aircraft carrier working as a mechanic around the reactor. I now am a inspector with Rolls-Royce, the engines, not the cars. I inspect turbine blades on the jet engines. I consider myself a constitutionalist. I do not agree with a lot of things that happen in America, according with this new culture that we're in right now. And that's about it. I had a kidney transplant back in 1997, which has since burned out, and I'm back on dialysis, and I've been placed back on the transplant list. But this time I need a heart transplant and a kidney transplant.
Oh, goodness.
So I'm looking forward to getting back to that. Other than that, I'm just a normal red-blooded American who loves being in this country.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for your service, by the way. Appreciate you. Larry, what's your take on the whole thing? Do you think we got race going on this time, or do you think it's just a case of a bunch of overzealous country boys? What do you think's happening?
Yeah, overzealous country boys who are extremely racist. I'll go with that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Okay, I mean, look, I like to judge things and listen to what's going on, but the recusals of some of the authorities, the lack of releasing this information as quickly as possible, and the video just speak for themselves. These guys saw this kid, incorrectly decided that he was a threat and said, hey, let's go get him. And we'll make up a story. Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Brian, what's your take?
Well, I think that the only reason why this is front page story is because we're bored. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities between Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin cases. I know you said that this isn't Trayvon Martin Part 2, but I'm seeing no one caring about the truth, everyone painting their side in the best possible light, only for more evidence to come out 3 days, 4 days later, and everyone to refuse to change their mind.
All right, let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. I'm curious. When you and I talked pre-show, I asked you about whether or not, like some of your opinion, and you went way left field, and I thought it was a very interesting point, and I want to examine it. And you said, when I was like, do you think this? Do you think that? And you came back with, on a scale of importance, right? This is like a 2. That really shocked me. Tell me why you think this is so unimportant. I'm a little confused.
I'm less concerned with the circumstances surrounding the death of Arbery than about the citizens' arrest laws that emboldened these two that led to the loss of life. These people, what's his name? Travis? He's an ex-cop. He knows that the citizens' arrest laws are only for personally witnessed felonies. This isn't a felony. A criminal trespass is at worst a misdemeanor. And going back to what I was saying, the Daily Wire went back to January 1st where a 9mm gun was stolen. And, yep, that's a felony. We got to go check this guy. And there's a lot wrong in this case. So
you're saying what you're saying is that the more important issue you're saying is that's what emboldened them. I don't know, Brian. I'll tell you why. Even if you're right, I'm not saying you're wrong. Let's say let me give you this hypothetical. Let's say we corrected what you're identifying as an additional problem that may have emboldened them. Let's say we corrected that and they couldn't do that. You really think they still wouldn't have done it?
If they were, then it's clear as day that they're racist.
Well, I think.
There's definitely some government cover-up with as long as it took for these for this information to get out. It should have come out a lot sooner.
Okay, look, he's on his morning jog. There's no history of arrests. I'm sorry, no history of police reports as the McMichaels claimed. There's no history of break-ins.
Well, how far are you going back?
The same amount of time they are. The article that I read, for the time span that they named, said there was no report. I mean, we can always find arrest reports and police reports in any neighborhood, but just for the time frame we're talking about, for this particular area of time that these guys are discussing, the reports that I have read is there was one. They claim there was many reports. There was one report, and it was about something completely different, and it didn't relate to any of the claims that the McMichaels made. So with that being said, if that's accurate, it means they were more than happy to lie about what was taking place. But then on top of that, the guy, according to the video, so they not only lied about the break-ins, then they lied about how the guy was approached them. They said he came up in a violent way and whatever else. But it turns out, based on the video, he was just doing his jog, and he went to jog around the truck, and they said, "Oh, you're the guy who's been breaking in," and boom, took him. So it seems to me if they're willing to lie about both of those to cover themselves up, I think we have enough evidence. These guys are probably racist.
Well, have you seen the footage that was released by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation earlier today?
No, tell me about that.
Well, in one video, there is Arbery going inside of a building, looking over a small little partition at a pile of construction materials. I've worked on construction sites before. I've worked with people who have lost thousands of dollars. There's a reason why these construction people lock up their tools at night. I really think the video shows someone that matches the description of Arbery, so I'm not going to just come out and say that it's him. But again, even if he took something, it's at worst.
Brian, you know what you're going to get on social media? Oh, he's black, huh? So he must match the description if the other guy was black. You're gonna. This is gonna be a tough one for you, man.
Hey, it's either that or saying that Arbery did it, and I'm not going to say that he did it. It's all alleged at this case.
Okay.
It's going to come out in the courts.
Look, I agree with the side of what you're saying, that you don't want to be in a position where you go ahead and say he's definitely been murdered, he's definitely was all race, and I get it that we don't want to go to definites yet, but I don't know, man. As a guy who took very strong opposition to what the black community and where they stood on Trayvon Martin, I find myself on this one seeing the evidence going the other way, man. Tell me about the video you saw that you said that was released earlier today.
Okay. It was, oh, where was it?
You said, okay, so but just to be clear, what you said was it was a video where they have somebody kind of going into properties and whatever else, but we don't know if we know it was a black man, we just don't know if it was him. Am I understanding you correctly?
Well, no, I'm giving myself less credibility than I really should be.
Okay.
He had the same exact clothes. He looked exactly the same.
Okay.
And he goes in. He looks at construction materials. And there's even footage on AJC. It's a website it's a news that I'm not really familiar with, but there is footage from across the street showing Arbery going into a house and spending roughly 5 minutes there. And there's also a transcript from a dispatch officer corroborating that there was a witness that said, oh, hey, someone that matches this exact description came running out of the house, and that's when these Travis and Gregory started chasing him down.
Neo Epicurean on YouTube is saying he agrees with you that the aunt confirmed it, that it was him that was okay. So let's go with that assumption. And I want to be clear to everybody, we're making an assumption here. I'm not, we want everything to be confirmed, but for the purposes of conversation, let's temporarily confirm it that it was him, just hypothetically. Let's assume that it was. And then we go back to the video of him running up to the truck, and they basically, a gang attack him. Even if everything you say is true, if we take all the evidence in a light that's most favorable to what you're saying, is it still okay what they did?
From the footage that I saw a fight over a gun. And if there's a gunshot in the back, if you're in your back, it's very clear as day that you were the victim. Mm-hmm. This was a shot where he had his hand on the barrel and he has a gunshot wound in his hand, and then he also has a gunshot in his chest. It was very quick. And if someone's chasing you down with a gun and they cut you off in front of you, you don't run up to that truck. I mean, you tell 6-year-olds that if someone's following you, you turn around and walk the other way because they can't turn around their cars easily.
All right, let me go to Everett for just a moment, then I'll come back to you, Larry. Everett, I want you to just kind of chime in. I know you must be thinking something. What's your thoughts on what Brian's said so far?
Like I said, I hadn't seen the video, so I didn't know exactly where he got shot at or anything. I just heard descriptions or what have you. But still, even though they would say they were making a citizen's arrest, and if I was jogging and then someone yelled at me, hey, stop right there, I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I would try to run around them or run the opposite direction, or I don't know. I just don't know what I would do. But from what I've heard of the video, seems to me that they jumped out and said, hey, stop right there. He tried to run around them, and then he saw the gun. I guess he tried to either grab it so he wouldn't get shot or grab it to push it away or what have you. Mm-hmm. And that's when it went off in his hand and in his chest or what have you. But still, as you were saying, even though, and I've seen the GBI video that was released, I think it was last night or this morning, it did resemble the young man from descriptions I've heard. It did resemble him, but he didn't take anything. He just went inside. Like I said before, resembled the construction buildings myself. New construction homes myself, just to look around and see what's in there and walk right on out. But if he was taking a jog, he said, oh, this is a nice house right here. I might want to go and check this out and see what it looks like. He goes up in there and then comes back out, jogs back out, and jogs up the road. Of course, somebody may make a phone call and say that somebody's trespassing. But as you said, trespassing is a misdemeanor. Yeah. You shouldn't have to die over misdemeanor. You shouldn't have to die. You haven't taken anything out of anywhere or committed any kind of felony or whatever. You shouldn't die, period, by a civilian who is not being physically attacked the way that it's been made out that he physically attacked the son of this in this altercation.
Larry, does it make sense to you that a guy who may be guilty of robbing, again, this is the hypothetical thing that the allegations that the McMichaels made, so I'm not saying I take this position, I'm just playing devil's advocate and arguing on their behalf temporarily. Does it make sense that if what they said is true about this guy, that he was robbing places and there was a series of robberies, that he runs toward their truck?
Absolutely not. And look, I'm an NRA member. I own a gun. And one of the first things that you're taught when you learn how to use a gun is that unless your life or the life of somebody else is in danger, you don't shoot somebody.
Right.
So whatever the situation was, in my opinion, these folks saw a guy, he's black. In their mind, it was an opportunity to go ahead and to shoot him, and that's what they did, and they should not have done that.
Yeah. Yep. I tend to go where you're going. Here's what it all hangs on for me, guys. In the footage that the attorney released that he thought would be exculpatory, end up getting them arrested. There are a couple of moments where really critical moments where it goes out of frame. And one of the things that I have not been able to determine with that video yet, and for me, it's a critical thing that I want to understand, is did he approach, because it cuts out of frame right at this moment. Did he approach them? Well, you see him go up to the vehicle. He goes around the right side, and then the frame goes away. Then the engagement starts between them physically. And what I want to know, and this is a critical detail, like if he approached them and started going at them, there is room in the law, as I understand it. I'm no attorney. Even some of the attorneys up there have said this. There's room in the law for them to respond with gunfire. You're allowed to protect yourself, even to the point of killing someone if they attack you. It's irrelevant whether he had at that point. If that's true, if he came up to that truck, and we're missing the video at this point of the encounter, if he came up to that truck and began to assault them or do things physically to them, I'm not just talking about shooting names at them or saying nasty things to them or whatever else. If he comes up to the truck and does something like that, they're justified, if they feel like their personal safety is threatened, according to the law, as I understand it, to shoot the guy to get him to stop. We don't know what he did in that moment, and that's the critical moment in this whole thing. Brian, let me pop back to you one time. I want to see if you had anything else you needed to say.
I was just going to say, Travis is an ex-cop. He should have known how to de-escalate the situation, and either he didn't de-escalate the situation, or he was attacked and acted in self-defense in a situation where he wouldn't have had to act in self-defense if there was no citizen's arrest law protecting him.
I hear you. I want to go back and read some stuff that the on YouTube on YouTube, Neo Epicurean is saying some things here I think are interesting. He didn't take anything as A, the house had just been robbed. B, there was a man on the phone to the cops watching him. Yes. And he saw him and ran. Then Mike Polakowski, I'm sorry if I destroy your names, guys. He says this. I'm not saying his name wrong. Arbery, is that right? Arbery and his state of mind is that he was, there's some typos here, or literally to want to kill them, then the reverse. That was, okay. So it's a little tough to read. Neo Epicurean comes back with this, and I think these are some interesting points. That was the second roadblock. First roadblock, he ran the other way. First shot went through his palm at point-blank range. And then he continues, Arbery tries to get to Travis in the front of the truck by using an attack move. State of mind, Arbery went to kill them. So these guys really think that, and this is what it all turns on. It all turns on whether or not Arbery actually attacked them or not. And Everett, I know that you haven't seen the video, and you told me that's tough stuff for you to watch. I get it. But that really, I think everything turns on that. And my whole opinion can be changed. As it stands right now, it looks like it was cold-blooded murder. But if we get evidence that and this is what I'm concerned about, if we get evidence somehow that shows that they were attacked, then their responses were justified. I mean, why two hicks are riding around in a truck with guns? Not necessarily unusual in Georgia, but anyway, the point being, if we get that kind of evidence that shows that happened, and I know there's some people online now saying, we have that kind of evidence, relax, we've got it. I want to see that. So if you guys could post in the comments, and by the way, please do me a favor, please like and share the video. I would really appreciate it. And subscribe to YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, please. If you've got the evidence, please put in the comments some of these things, and we will definitely revisit this. Everett, I appreciate you coming on today, man. Thank you so much. Brian, right. Thank you for bringing the other side, Brian. It was incredibly valuable. Larry, you're just Larry.
Right, that's the nicest thing anybody said to me today.
Right. That's actually a step up. Larry and I are old Jew buddies. So he's full Jew. I'm half Jew. So there's that. Guys, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on today. Did I miss anything, or are you guys good? Everett, do you have anything else, or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Larry, you good?
I think I may go watch the video so I can have a my own perspective instead of someone else's, and I'll see where I go from there.
Let's come back tomorrow for another one of these, and let's see where we're at after you watch the video. I'd be very curious. Larry, anything else, or are you good?
I'm just glad to see you back.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Been off the air for about 6 years. It's time. Brian, you good?
Yeah, I'm just glad that the murder hornets are keeping the riots away.
I so thought you said murder whores. I was like,
murder hornets.
What is he talking about? That's the next stage in Jumanji this year. The murder hornets and then the murder whores. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
All right.
See y'all.
Bye.